Like, feel it. Feel the energy. Feel the science.
Always get dead self-conscious.
Feel it running through
I
your
always
veins.
feel the left side of my face really strongly whenever we start recording visuals. It's really weird. I'm always very self-conscious of having a stroke live on air. Don't know why.
Can you smell toast?
Always. Yeah, I think I'm just having...
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Just a prolonged stroke.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I am now recording.
Okay, I'm also recording. Do you want to clap to kind of sync everything up?
Yeah, can do. Don't like my hair. Hair's shocking.
Shocking. Ridiculous behaviour.
Yeah. Right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Sam,
Hello.
what is my favourite anime series that we've watched so far?
Attack on Titan.
Absolutely. So let's talk about my second favourite series, which is obviously
Dr. Stone.
Doctor Stone. No, it's that Death Note actually, but then probably in third or fourth, it's Doctor
Third or
Stone.
fourth. Food Wars, of course, is the. is the
Are we just
natural
going
choice
through the shows that we've watched?
Just a list that we've watched before. No, Doctor Stone is something that has clearly resonated with you quite a lot. You've actually followed through with it, and you've actually watched season 2 and the special that recently came out. And with season 3 coming just around the corner in April of this year, let's talk about why we love Doctor Stone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just. I mean, we're not going to go episode by episode. It's far too much content there to unpick. But I think
at
we want to
least
just
30 episodes.
At least I think we just want to talk about like the themes and just see if we've got the same opinion as to what makes Doctor Stone great. Because there are certain elements to me that stand out as to why this show has become so popular, and also what I love about the show and what keeps me gripped. They might be the same as yours, but also I think there's a lot that speaks to people's personality in this as well. Like, I think for me and you, we're quite nerdy in the fact that we like sort of science and learning about the world and how it all comes together.
And
like
that element of discovery and kind of like pushing humanity.
Yeah, even if it's just the idea of
quite...
that, because I don't know whether we'd both say that we were massively informed on those topics, but it's definitely
absolutely not. Like I flunked chemistry horribly back in sixth form.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, GCSE. Yeah. Fine. Enjoyed that. As soon as we got to A level and we had to engage another layer of intellect.
Actually, applying what we knew. Nope.
Nah.
But I know what photosynthesis is. I know that the mitochondria was the powerhouse of the cell. Like, I feel like I have a
the
decent
tagline
baseline.
of every OCA textbook. Is it OCA? All the different
OCR, yeah.
OCR and AQA.
The examining body of the UK.
Yeah.
Oh god, AQA.
Oh god. Ugh. What you don't want is to get stuck with EdXL for maths. Oh, they didn't know what they were doing.
Jeez. Game over. Yeah. Anyway, weird British references aside, shall we kind of think about Dr. Stone? Will, what is Dr. Stone?
So that's the first thing that I want to talk about then. So for me, the element of science that they bring into this show was a massive selling point for me going in, because I just thought this as a concept. Let's break down the concept of Dr. Stone. The world is reset to zero. We are now
we are essentially back in the Stone Age.
Yes.
But it's also the far-flung future. So for those who, I'm assuming most people who've clicked on this have probably seen Dr. Stone to an extent. A big green light flashes and we are transported to 4,000 years in the future, where nature has reclaimed the majority of the planet. We are back at square one, and some humans are starting to emerge from these stone cocoons and they have to survive. And luckily, we are met with two protagonists to begin with. We are met with Taiju and we are met with Senku. Do you want to tell us a bit more about those two?
So, I think Senku is the protagonist that we follow throughout the whole series and the special.
Eventually.
He is... What do you mean? Oh, eventually, because at the beginning they're together, yeah. Taiju, it looks like he's going to be the protagonist. And
he's your typical hot-blooded, shonen protagonist.
Yeah.
If I try hard enough, then I can achieve anything.
Yeah, and I think what this show does brilliantly is very early on it separates them and goes down a different path. That is a bit more unique, I would say, and a bit more a bit of a riskier move than just going down that shonen hot-blooded character route, which would have still got loads of views, would still have been entertaining for a lot of people, but I think anyone of maybe a bit more of a mature audience might have lost interest if it went down that route. I think but I don't know whether you know anything about the way that the writers went about the plot, where at what point they made those decisions and things, because I think the premise of the show only works this way, because you have Senku is this science-obsessed genius who, by all intents and purposes, he is only there because he is clever, because he breaks out of his cocoon by
That's how
just
he breaks out the
sheer
cocoon.
determination.
His brain has been working
at such a rate.
4,000 years.
Yeah. I can't even remember the details of it, but there's something in particular that he is producing, some sort of hormone that produces when his brain works that mixes with the bat acid.
With the guano.
Yeah.
It's like Ace Ventura 2. It's suddenly bat shit plus brain power equals I break out.
Absolutely.
But for Senku and for most of the characters who break out naturally during the first half of the show, the idea is that it's prolonged activation of the brain. So if the brain has been going and working for long enough, if there is the tiniest bit of nitric acid introduced whilst your brain is switched on and is still thinking, for Senku, for his case, it's counting. He's been counting the seconds ever since he's initially frozen. And then at some point he also starts parallel thinking. So like he puts one half of his brain to counting the time, and the other half of his brain is like, okay, I need to wake up in this season, and then when I wake up I need to do this, and this. And so when that all comes together and he eventually does wake up, we are introduced to this character who, for all intents and purposes, his cheat code is, I know everything about science. I know everything about modern science to a ridiculous degree. And that's the barrier of entry, I feel, for Dr. Stone, is if you can get on board with the fact that Senku is a walking encyclopedia of scientific knowledge, you're going to have a good time. Because it's unrealistic to expect anybody
the best problem solver in the world, because even having that knowledge of science doesn't mean you can practically do these things. And he has to solve... Even in the very first few episodes, you get him like coming across barriers, like with the distillation of the acid and stuff, and making wine, and he has to like the urn cracks and things like that. So very early on he has to battle problems, and we see that this is going to be. We see the pacing of the show sort of start to become clear. That it's going to be a long, slow process. It's not like it's just going to be
trial and error. That is the
modern society.
Core idea of science is this idea of trying things again and again and finding what works. And
however,
the show...
I was just going to say, it does change. That does change, and it does speed up as the show goes on, and it becomes more successful. It becomes more, okay, we're just going to... We'll tell you that it takes a long time, but we're not going to show you that, because that would be boring.
Skip the boring parts of it. Yeah. And I think that's something that the show earns, because it spends so long in those initial days of... We have the flashbacks of like Senku working for hours to find out the nitric acid hack, and then he's like finding tools, and it takes him like almost a year to revive Taiju and to like get him involved. But again, Senku being the problem solver that he is, he knows that he needs physical strength to allow his science to thrive. And so even once he's separated from Taiju, in a genius move by the author, like we already touched upon, his focus is on manpower and being able to like just give simple jobs that after a long amount of time will pay off in a scientific breakthrough. So physical labor and having a team of people who can just work to create the conditions needed for humanity to evolve to the next step in this Stone Age time in a fast-paced manner.
Yeah. So, again, going back to Senku as a character and that whole him making this show, without him, if we'd kept them together or made Taiju the epicenter of the series, it doesn't work, because what I love about this show and what I think most people get from this show is that ground zero. It's what those we've talked about this before, and I related it to those big online platform games where you build up civilization, like you
like Civilization. We're talking about like the literally Civ 5 and stuff like that. Like it's a looking down and creating. Spore was another good example. Where you build up an entire society and then you are trying to thrive when there are other people around you.
You go through different eras and different ages. Exactly. Like Age of Empires. That was the thing
that's the one. Age of Empires, Civ, those kind of games.
It's because you said ages.
Very much has a lot of calling cards to those style of games, and even within the show and the manga itself. They even reference traditional video games, like when they have a new breakthrough, it says on the screen, electricity get, or light bulb achieved, or water wheel created, and you really feel, and especially because we see Senku struggle for those first 6 months, we really feel how fast technology is coming back to this world.
Yeah,
because that progression, I think, is something that really draws you in.
I think what's also incredible is that because it's such a small scale, Senku's inventions are to fit the needs of the people. So it's not going in time order. Like, he jumps around from electricity to
and then
phones and then back to something else, to antibiotics and whatever, shelter and weapons and things. And I think that in itself could have, I quite liked the idea of seeing a progression through the ages, but the fact that he's just so ruthless with everything, and we see it in his attitude to everything. He's just like, we need this, we're going to do this, we need to create this, and see him so excited by it all. And that is another element that makes this show great. It's the hyperbolic,
this is exhilarating.
Yeah, the 10 million percent argument that everything is just so hyperbolic and so intense when it comes to the science. A lot of the other stuff can be fairly chilled and but the science is the exciting part, and that is what Senku is obsessed with, and we see his passion and everything come through. And that,
but it's also accurate.
Yeah.
So the science, exactly, another layer to everything. They had a specific consultant. But they had to do that.
Can you imagine if this series wasn't scientifically accurate, if it was just they used something to do something, and it was it would feel so less impactful. It'd be great, but that's not possible.
But 90% of the stuff that they do in this show you can replicate at home. I would say, you really put the time and effort to it. It would take longer.
I would say it takes longer, but I would say there's quite a lot of
show, right?
I would say there's quite a bit of luck and chance that they negate. So I think for things like the lightning, creating the electromagnet with the lightning strike,
for the lightning strikes and things like that,
to create the generator, that needs a lot of luck and specific circumstance, but it's technically and scientifically possible. It's just you might not be able to replicate it, and you might need 1,000 tries to get it to work first time.
To get there. And that calls into the premise of the series almost, is that each character, unlike a lot of shonen shows where every character has a different special ability, maybe in Naruto it's my ability is the Rasengan or the Chidori or whatever. In Dr. Stone, the special ability is, okay, I've picked one aspect, and on my stat sheet I have chosen to put all of my points into this one stat. So for Senku, it's scientific knowledge. For Taiju, it's my physical prowess. I'm not smart, but I can do stuff. For Yurizuha, it's I can craft things. For Chrome, he's a good gatherer, and he's a good outside of the box thinker.
Is he a bit of a?
Is he like a leader?
Is Chrome the first all rounder though?
I would argue maybe he is. He is the most natural, I would say, out of everybody, because he doesn't have maybe any specific skill. He's a jack of all trades, but his focus is bringing a natural observation to Senku's insane high-level science. Like, oftentimes in the show, we see Chrome solve problems that Senku doesn't see, because Chrome's coming at it from a very naturalistic point of view. Whereas Senku's just like, well, in the modern day, we do this, this, and this. He can't see it from a lower level. He has to do it on a purely theoretical level. Whereas Chrome he's forged in going out and collecting.
Yeah, so I think for me, Chrome is the other essential character to this series. I think the Senku is the main protagonist, and then Chrome is the next level, the next layer on top of Senku's brilliant science. So for everything you said is absolutely right. He sees it from a more grounded point of view. You know, he grew up in this Stone Age. He knows nothing of the future of of science, and he's not been spoilt by decades and centuries of exposure to beautiful sunsets and things. So the epitome of this is when they, in the end of season 2, when they are in the hot air balloon and he sees the sunrise over the
and he figures
horizon.
Out that the world is,
and he knows that the Earth is spherical, and his just awe and mesmeration. Is that the word?
Being mesmerized by it.
Being mesmerized.
You are absolutely right. I think without Chrome to be there, and for Chrome to actually understand the importance of each of these scientific discoveries that happen, and
it's also for the audience's benefit. I think he spells it out for the audience, because without him, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a pretty sunset. But with him there vocalizing,
he's never seen this before.
Of course, showing what this means, it turns that mundane. Yeah, it's a sunset. We've all seen everyone's Instagram where they've got a pretty sunset, and we've all seen, pictures from space. Great, yeah. But we've been spoiled by that. He's not. He's completely new to it, and I think having that there, without that, the show isn't as good. The show isn't as entertaining.
Falls apart.
It falls apart to a certain extent, because you can do all of these inventions, but you get to a certain point where it's like, okay, he can make anything. He's made this now. He's made this now. He's made this now. And the impact of those inventions
genuinely feels like they are being like the awe of that invention.
Yeah.
If you don't have a character who genuinely feels that awe, then it falls apart. Because obviously we all know what cola tastes like. We all know what ramen tastes like. Like, we've all seen that sunset.
Gen does that for the cola thing as well, doesn't he? Although actually he's from the modern day, so he does know what cola tastes like. But it's the same sort of thing. You see the excitement and exhilaration.
I think that moment in the first season where Senku fully explains what the Earth used to be like.
Yeah.
And he explains like literally what a light bulb is, and the fact that we had aeroplanes that could fly in the sky. And Chrome breaks down crying, thinking, this is amazing, this is wonderful, this is what we had. And he sees a path to getting back to that level.
Yeah.
That emotional core, I think, carries through the next few seasons. So, like, even when we get to the special, the Ryusei special that has just come out, we still get those moments of Chrome in the balloon, conquering things through science, and then appreciating them, and not just saying, yeah, we did it because Senku was here. He's like, he's still getting ideas, and he's like, this is what I want to do, and we can still go that much further.
And you know what? He's also, when we talk about him being an all-rounder, he's also the most, what do you call them? Like plain characters where like you can project onto, because he's, like, his character design is pretty basic.
Like an insert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like he's not got that one thing. He is quite rounded in his sort of personality. He's very extreme and a bit sort of like
he's still very anime, isn't he? He's still very
anime.
I am an anime character.
But out of all of them, he is that sort of character you can sort of project onto, and I think that's deliberately done so that you can get the most out of this perception, this perspective of him just being amazed by everything that Senku does. And it's not so far anyway, it doesn't feel repeated. It's every single invention has something that he likes about it, something he can say, something that he can take from it. And I think, one side you've got Senku, who without him the series doesn't work, but as the series gets on, you need Chrome there to back up everything that he's doing and be mesmerized by it. It's great.
I think that also speaks to a level of where we are kind of as a society almost as well, is that a lot of us assume that, we've had a basic education, we think that we are above average in terms of what we know. And to then see Chrome, who is kind of at that same level, he has like an above average for his village understanding. We can project onto him much more. So then when Senku is doing all the high science, we're like, oh yeah, we've heard about this from our own schooling. And then we get to see the unique solutions to that. It makes Chrome that little bit more relatable, because he is literally just above our own, I guess, generalized understanding of what science is. Like what we learned in high school, what we learned as we were growing up.
Chrome's above that.
No. I'm saying he's at that kind of same level. Like, we did chemistry, biology, and physics to a degree, and Chrome has kind of figured that out by himself. And so when we meet him, we're also at the same level as him. We're like, we understand that there's more going on. It's not magic and gods and this, that.
Yeah. So he's you're right. He's moved on from a lot of the tribes people that we see that see it as magic, and to be fair, when we first meet him, he doesn't call it science because he calls it magic.
Yeah.
And
he calls it magic.
Yeah, he's very sort of, here's my pretty show of pretty coloured paints and stuff that I can make explode. But what is great about him is that he very quickly realizes Senku's ability and is like, okay, this is what I've been trying to get to. This is what, like,
he's the goal.
He's like, he sees Senku and it's like, you're explaining things that sort of make sense to me now. Whereas, like, I think if Senku explains it to anyone else, they're like, what are you talking about? But now Chrome has seen these things. He's done lots of practical physics. He's like the first he's an experimenter. He's tested things out and he's learned. He's discovering things. And now Senko's coming in with theory and reasons why. And like, he's going like with sorry, I've just got goosebumps. Like with the whole water wheel and stuff, where he comes up with it just by understanding the principles
he comes
of
up
physics.
with that idea by himself. Like, we as an audience know that a water wheel exists, but Chrome, just from what Senku's taught him and his own experimentation, he comes up with the water wheel. One of the most important inventions in history. And he comes up with that, and Senku didn't think of it because he's still operating on such a high level of science.
But he's I think it just shows that he's got like these fundamental understanding of physics and the world and science and how it operates, because he's practiced so much and because he's messed around and tweaked with stuff. And then Senku comes in and it's like, oh yeah, you've done that. Like, I'm imagining like I don't know, a chessboard, and he's got lots of pieces, but not necessarily all the pieces. He's got some pieces here and there, and he's like, yeah, this does this, and this does that. And then Senku's come in and be like, oh yeah, that's chess. You do it like this, and this. And he's like, of course.
Like you actually have a rook and a queen. And
filling in the gaps.
He's like, and this is how they move, and he's explaining stuff so that Chrome can thrive within what he already knows, and add on to the new knowledge he's getting.
Yeah. It's a great relationship, and it makes the series fantastic.
Absolutely. So to keep thinking of characters, then obviously one of the main threads throughout series 1 and 2 is Tsukasa, our kind of our big bad, our antagonist for a lot of it, but initially starting as an ally. I guess what I want to know from you is, what did you think of his development, especially because for most of the first series, he kind of just takes a back seat. Like, we know he's there, but
he's gathering troops, he's gathering a force in order to go against Senku, and by the end of Stone Wars, we see that come to fruition. We see that battle. Tsukasa, I think, is a great character because of his moral, the questions around his morality and his ideology. Yes. Like, he wants to have this perfect world where
a pure
world where we create everyone, we only revive people who we know want the best for the planet. We don't go back to the old ways. Where I think there is this sort of two ends of the spectrum where Senku just wants to bring everything back. He just wants to get science back to where it was, bring everyone back, and carry on where he wants to
restore the status quo.
And I think there is I think we've talked about this before, but there is this happy medium, this idealistic but medium where you do a mix of both and you try and create a new world by bringing people back and doing things slightly differently. But that is potentially unobtainable because people come back, like Tsukasa says, they come back with their own desires and their own goals and their own objectives.
And the old way of thinking, right? So it's they come back and they're like, I want things to go back to the way they were.
Yeah,
so
I want my land back.
I want to be the CEO again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think, we can spend ages getting into what we think about the
philosophy of it
all. But it is fascinating, and I think it's such a cool thought experiment as to where you stand on this spectrum. But
are you a Senku or a Tsukasa?
Yeah,
Sound
but I
think
in
the comments below.
Yeah, well, that's Twitter for you, isn't it? You either have to be a Senku or a Tsukasa because you can't be anything in between.
You're either 100% one, you're 100% the other.
Yeah, there is no in between on Twitter. But there is no nuance. But I think here in the show, it's just great to see that play out. Like, personally, I don't agree with either of them wholeheartedly, but it doesn't matter. These are your two ends of the spectrum, and in the end,
they're the only two people who are conscious. So you gotta it's the lesser of two evils almost. You've got to be like, okay, am I going to go with restoring everything, or am I going to go for purity? And obviously, the show decides to follow the bring everything back route.
Can you imagine a flip series? Like they change certain things to make Tsukasa not a knob, and they
make him less of a dickhead.
Yeah, and they bring it. Tsukasa is the point of view character, and Senku is this evil genius. He's like Frankenstein, and he's like trying to just bring science back for the hell of it. And Tsukasa's there like, no, dude, we need to slow down. We just need to bring back people slowly and bring back a society that we can work with and not worry. We can shape the world in what we want and make it a better place.
Absolutely.
It could
the
easily
framing
be flipped.
Of the show very, very easily just be Senku is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the show is as good as it is, because Senku often
toes
in
that
his own
line
hyperbolic
very
way.
Yeah.
He pretends to be this like megalomaniacal madman
pretends
who is trying to like force people to work too hard or do this. But if you think about what he's trying to do, maybe he isn't always right. Maybe he is.
We see it
in the wrong.
His insanity come out when it's like, oh yeah, this thing can actually dissolve bodies and stuff. People, and he's like excited by that.
Sulfuric acid.
Yeah. So I think that whole moral situation is so interesting, and I think it'd be really fascinating for the characters to explore that more moving forward. Especially because by the end of season 2, they're kind of on the same page. Not on the same page. They've definitely got different ideals, but they're definitely they've buried the hatchet.
But there's more unity.
Extent. Absolutely, and Tsukasa's arc to bring it back round to him being frozen at the end.
Yeah,
and because
he's
got
a scene.
he's dying. Is he punctured a lung or something? I think.
Yeah, I think Hyoga had hit him, and so he was bleeding out. And so the only way to save him, Senku realized, was, okay, so what we'll do is we'll put your body on ice. We're essentially going to do an attempt at cryo-freezing you.
Yeah.
And then
which
we'll try and bring you back later. Yeah, like, which has still not been successfully achieved, so we'll see how that goes.
How long have we got until Walt Disney wakes up?
3 years ago.
Oh, right, okay. So he's all right, yeah? That went well?
Yeah, he's all good. He's back, and he's bringing back the Fourth Reich, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walt Disney was not a good person. Look it up.
Yeah, not a controversial opinion. Just a fact.
So
Tsukasa's frozen.
Tsukasa gets frozen, and we kind of enter into the special, the prior to season 3, with meeting a new subcast of characters. We meet Ryusei, and we meet Francois as well. So
who's Francois?
The idea is, I'm not sure if was Francois fully revealed? Maybe not. But Ryusei, at the very least, was brought in.
You've just spoilers, Sam. Is that from the manga? Have you read the manga?
I finished the manga, yeah. So the manga ended last year, 2022.
Oh wow!
And it was very, very powerful.
Yeah, I didn't
really see Francois. But the main thing is we get introduced to Ryusei. So we've had all of this conflict in the Stone World and the philosophical debates of whether we should have science or be a pure world, and it all culminates in a big battle where Senku uses his scientific knowledge to defeat Tsukasa and the ones who want to cling on to the Stone World. And so that leads us into the special.
So hold on. Let's just go back, because we need to just relive that moment where Senku is talking to Tsukasa, because that moment at the end of season 2, when I was doing some research for this, I was watching some reviews. I say research, I was watching some YouTube reviews, and one of the comments was that season 2 is a bit different to season 1 in that it's not as jokey and laughable, especially towards the end. But it doesn't necessarily take away from it.
It's very much focused on that battle.
Yeah, but there's the series at the end is really poignant, really sort of, Senku's there laughing and joking as Tsukasa effectively dies, is cryo-frozen, and it's such a heartfelt moment. Like, of all the moments in there's probably only one other moment in this series that comes close to that, which is the end of season 1.
And would that be the astronauts?
The astronauts. So before we get into the special, I think we need to just talk about, I think a lot of people who watch this show will understand this, but people who don't might just see it as a joke. Like, it's fun, it's exciting, it's colourful. Like, the animation is pretty cool. I like all the artistry, the
everything's
styling.
Very on model. We have our character sheets. The manga, of course, was drawn by Boichi, who is a South Korean artist who is insane at what he does. So to try and even create a sliver of that in the anime is a gargantuan task. And what they did is they went for a middle ground. They're not going for the hyper detailed artwork of the manga, but they are going for something that is very detailed, and everything is always on model. So that means that maybe we're not getting the most Sakuga infused insane fight scenes and dynamic camera angles, but every shot looks very good. And it looks pretty, it's very detailed, and it emotes.
The colours are great.
And that the colour scheme is amazing, and to link that into the soundtrack, especially as we're coming into talking about the astronauts and their story. The way that the soundtrack entangles itself with the essence of the show itself. Sublime.
What a sentence. So the astronauts is another big thing. Is it Ichigami family, or is that Ichigami Senku? That's his family name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that whole plot was kind of a bit out of left field.
Yeah.
But it ties together so well. We don't need to go into detail. I'm sure people know how it goes. But I think some of that, the emotiveness of that, where like you see them looking down at the earth and you see it happening from their perspective, and it gives you that sense of sort of foreboding, that sense of loss, because you know that this is all
the last like 6 people in existence.
But it's knowing that as much as you're enjoying this story, it takes you back to that reality, and that these people went through it, and that they're not there anymore. It's like, this is Senku's dad. Great. Oh yeah.
Oh, that was 4,000 years ago.
Yeah. And up until this point, there was every chance that he was going to come back because he could have been in stone. But now we know that he wasn't turned to stone, so Senku's never going to see his dad again, and these people are never going to be alive again because
so it hits that much harder frozen. When they uncover the record and they can hear those last messages that they left behind.
It's so bittersweet because it's like they survived and they lived out their lives, but now they've gone and they can never be brought back.
And that is the message of the show, right? Is that idea that science, and by accepting science and by pushing the envelope forward, your legacy, you yourself can survive onwards. Thanks to the development of science and the development of technology, we can exist beyond our corporeal forms. We can keep going via recordings and videos and whatever. And in this very simple moment of Senku finally getting to hear his dad again after however many years that he's spent trying to rebuild scientific technology, we get that really pure human moment of him finally cracking, and like he cries as he hears his dad's voice, and we hear a song. We hear the song of the pop star Lillian. And it's a bad recording, and she doesn't have any music going along, but it is that testament to humanity in that music and tech and everything comes together. And that's what Dr. Stone is about. It is about celebrating almost us as a species and how we can persist. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And we all bring it together. And when it works, you get Lillian's song. Or Senku's dad's message. Or
I think
the
even
walkie-talkies. It's
that plot line as a device is also just really well thought out in itself, though, because you've got these people that, like, it could have been anyone, but the fact that it's like, I think your brain automatically goes to, well, how did they survive? How did they make the record? And then you're like, well, actually, these guys are scientists. These guys are incredibly qualified.
They're actually like the top of their field.
In fact, they're probably the people most likely to be able to do this sort of thing. And the way they do the flashback, and they have the whole episode, I think it's just the one episode, but whatever. But they flash back to how they crash landed, or how they decided to first of all leave the International Space Station. Come back down, and they're like, we've got escape pods, we'll go down one at a time. Then they have to row out and save one of them, and it's like, and then they're on the island and they have to start from scratch. It's basically Senku, but without Senku. They have to start their own civilization. But they are, and do you know what? That's another great comparison between Dad and Senku, because it just shows how good Senku is, because like these are incredible minds and they managed to get so far and do so much, but then like the dad's just like,
pneumonia wipes them out.
If anyone can sort this, it's Senku. If anyone can like fix society, it's Senku. So he's like praising his son. Is it his son? Adopted son? I can't remember. Are they actually?
Yeah, so adopted.
Yeah, adopted son. Interesting.
Yeah.
So Senku isn't actually their great ancestor, because they're not.
Just in family name.
Yeah. Anyway, which okay. Right. Sorry, just brain going.
Oh, it's whirring.
Yeah.
You can see the cogs turning. He's 10 billion% invested in this franchise.
So anyway, I just think that's really, really nice because you basically see Dr. Stone 1.0. You see the first attempt at trying to rebuild society because they start a life together. They try and investigate what they can. They're trapped on this island, really, and they go to the mainland and they sort of have a go at rebuilding their society. And obviously, pneumonia wipes a few of them out, and then their kids sort of grow up and set up this village. But then Senku comes along.
What is wild to me is that village survives for 4,000 years.
Yeah.
Like
which begs
relative time.
Yeah.
That's my most suspension of disbelief part.
Oh, okay,
is the fact that the astronauts' descendants and everything like that comes from that and Ishigami Village in 4,000 years, that's as far as they got. It was like they had a solid base and that was it. Like there was no other expansion, there were no other settlements. It is just this one village.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess it should be.
That's a long time, and if you think about Stone Age life expectancies,
that's like 100 generations. Are we saying if it's like 40-year lifespan? Or a generation's what, every 20 years maybe? So
that is a lot of inheritance, and to just exist in this one fishing community.
200 lifespans.
That again, it's a very
200 generations
nitpicky criticism.
But it is. But if you're gonna,
when everything else is so based in science, it's like okay, maybe I can. I
can buy the lack of technology thing, because I just think, I can 100% buy that because the Stone Age lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. It wasn't a blip. Like the Stone Age is by far the biggest time period, known of humanity. Modern civilization outside of the Stone Age is a blip compared to the Stone Age. You look at like the Mesolithic era is like 40,000 years or something. I don't know. It's a huge time frame. So the technology side of it doesn't bother me, but you're right in the incestuous line. There should be a much larger amount.
We can build these wood thatched huts, and we have elements of fire, and we can cook, and we can create.
But they were taught those by their parents.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
they had those elements. They had the 100 stories, and they had them. Yeah, no, I completely. But see, I don't disbelieve any of that. I just disbelieve the fact that this is the extent of the reproduction. And obviously, it started off slow with only brothers and sisters. I mean, that's a thought we don't want to have, but. Once you've got a few generations in, there should be more expanse and more spreading.
We've bred it out of the gene pool.
That's the only way. Just power through.
Just keep going. Luckily, it was the International Space Station, so we had various different ethnicities joining in.
Yes, but only 4 people survived. So there's only so many ways you can mix and match, unfortunately. Unless we're going to go... Anyway. So, yeah. I think that moment of realization, that is such a beautiful moment in the show, and we do get Lillian's song, which becomes kind of the catalyst moving forward with Gen and his imitation of that. And let's move on to the special then, because the special is where we are left before season 3 comes out in a
very soon. Yeah,
a couple of months.
We are left with the Ryusei special.
And it harks back to sort of season 1 a lot, doesn't it? And it's sort of the way it's a little bit more whimsical. A lot of stuff's happening, and
jokes, kind of a bit jokes. More relaxed
there isn't that
vibe.
Yeah, there isn't that overarching threat of Tsukasa.
Yeah, of Tsukasa is going to come and invade. It's just like, okay, so what do we need to do? Okay, we need to make a boat because we need to go to this location. So what do we need to do? Okay, so here's the road, and I love it. We get to the big callback to the road maps, which we haven't even talked about, for the series in general is the idea that everything we need to create, there is a roadmap to do it, and we have clearly defined steps from the beginning. And so our roadmap this time is we need a ship that can literally help us to travel around the globe.
Yeah. Because they want to find the root of the green glow, don't they? They're trying to find the cause.
Yes, they're trying to find the cause of the petrification.
Yeah. So yeah, the roadmaps are pretty cool. Like, I think you've always really liked them, sort of seeing it laid out, and I agree. I think it is pretty. It's a really nice, simple way of just illustrating it in a way that we all like get. Like you harped on about the computer games and that sort of thing, and I think it's definitely got those elements to it. It feels sort of a bit whimsical, a bit sort of, but it's also like, yeah, okay, I can see it's the whole reason that diagrams and flowcharts are a thing is that you simplify a complicated concept. So I think, it's really nice. A nice way to illustrate that. And we have the boats, we have the boat designs, we have this little voting.
They're working through.
They decide to vote, and they do this like manipulation where they put
the contest,
the contest to see whose boat we're gonna build, and there's lots of fun elements. Like, I love the whole currency that
he brings in like Ryosei dollars or whatever it is that he does, and he's like, surprise, I've invented capitalism.
Yeah, effectively.
Like, and it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth, because you're like, you're just dominating it, but then by the end of it, it does sort of get reset to 0 again, because Senku's just like, I can't remember what he does to pull it apart. Basically, they need to use all of the money of some of them. I think he falls victim to his own capitalist society, because he ends up spending all his money on the clothes that they design from the hemp, and then they're
but the only person who can produce the hemp is Senku's crew, so it's like they end up benefit from him.
Coming away with a lot of shopping bags full of clothes, and Senku's making bank on all of his purchases, and then they use a lot of the other money to actually make the hot air balloon. They have to stitch it together, don't they, to like make it? I think that's what they do. To make so. They
use the motivator is to get more money to make the hot air balloon, but by making the hot air balloon, they're also making clothes. So it all comes out in Senku's favor, because of course he's planned this far ahead, because of course he's giga brained about everything like this.
And there's another comeuppance for Ryusei when when they want him to pilot the hot air balloon, and there's they're like, right, we need him to pilot it. Gen, I'm going to leave it to you to convince him to do something. And Gen's like, right, there are 2 tickets. If you pull out the Joker card, it's absolutely you win, and you get a seat. And everyone's like, right. So they're going to make Ryusei win a ticket so that he doesn't have to, he can't bargain. And he's like, nah. It's reverse psychology. He doesn't win.
Reverse Uno.
Yeah. He's like, Gen's won a seat. Wonderful. I'm going to go up. And then Ryusei's like, but I kind of want to go up.
But I want
to do that. It's like, well, you can buy the ticket off me. So in essence, because Ryusei was going to charge them for his services to fly the balloon, and it ends up he buys the ticket from them.
Trick him into
giving them money.
Yeah.
Which again is just really fun. Like, it just plays to the character's strengths. Like, Ryusei is this very opportunistic, comes from money, knows how to make money. It's very, very good character, and Gen is.
But I like that he is so still obsessed with like that adventure and that like being a captain. Like, he says himself, like, I want everything. I want to possess everything. That's my driving motivation. But that, like, hearing that out loud, that sounds a lot like, he's just greedy. He just wants money. But then in action, it's like, no, he wants experiences. He wants to be the first to do this. He wants to pilot the balloon. He wants to be the first like captain of the world's first.
So you're saying that like
in this new world.
the capitalist and the money side of things is a means to an end, a means to fulfill the other elements. Like, I'm going to own the oil company, as he says, and I'm going to set up society so that I'm rich, the richest person, so that I can then pursue my dreams. It's a very a nice spin on it, on his personality. I think that's giving him a lot of credit, because I do think he is just a bit of a tyrant. He likes. I don't think he's a bad character, because he's not doing anything to hurt anyone, but he's definitely taking control of the situation.
Yeah,
and he wants
he turns up, and suddenly the
power.
entire dynamic has shifted.
Yeah.
It's because he's here and he's like, I want to be in control. I want to be the person who's calling the shots. And up to this point, everybody has been very altruistic. Everybody has been very
he sees
willing to work for the people.
I think he sees Senku
to the extreme. Yes,
he sees Senku and it's like, I'm not in competition here. I am nothing here. I need to get a foothold in this. They've all had a lot of time to build their society and build their dynamic. I need to bring something new to the table. And I don't just want to be a pilot. I don't want to just be the guy that steers the ship, because that's nothing in this world. I need something.
I desire everything.
What do I know? I know capitalism. I know
I have an uncanny ability to pilot ships.
I know supply and demand. I know how currency works. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set it up for better or for worse, so that I have the powers back in my control. And I think it comes down to power and control, a lot of what his desires are. But I think it's a fun character to have. I think it works well. I tell you what it is. It's a brilliant move to keep the plot interesting, because, again, like introducing Chrome to emphasize the changes that Senku's making, this character now is almost bringing a part of society that maybe is what Tsukasa didn't like. It's what
didn't want this. He didn't want money, and he didn't want like capitalist. That idea of
the rich get
richer.
richer.
I have more money, I have more power. Yeah, the rich get richer. Like, and Ryusei has brought
suffer.
that back.
Yeah.
And so we now have a very interesting
separation of the classes
part of the show. Yeah, exactly. We are now entering a part of the show where the necessity is we need Ryusei's skills, and we need to like have this boat and to move out. But when we finally get around to awakening Tsukasa, because we can assume that obviously he's there, he's the Chekhov's gun of our plot going forward, is Tsukasa's going to come back. And so when Tsukasa eventually comes back, is he going to like the world that Senku has created with Ryusei and the capitalism and the money and the boats and everything like that?
Wow, yeah, no, that's definitely where it's going to go, isn't it? I hadn't really thought that far ahead. And obviously you've read the manga, so you know that that's where it goes. But or it doesn't. It might not. There might be another twist. But no, I think that is exactly what it's setting up for. So that's really that is going to be really interesting to see what happens there and how that ends. So how much is left in terms of, like, if you obviously I'm not saying anime often goes at a different pacing to the manga, but
Absolutely.
Like, how far through the manga are we at this stage?
So at this point, like the Ryusei stuff, I would say is
that canon? Is that part of the manga?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
It is they basically took, I think, maybe 5 or so chapters and then like combined it into one special. For the Ryusei special. So I would say we are about at the halfway point.
Oh wow! Okay, so still another couple of seasons at least.
Yeah, I would say we are. So the next season that is coming out in April is called New World. Is the name of it, and that's basically gonna take us through. Oh, good
morning, world.
So we're probably going to be hitting the next. I would say maybe the entirety of the next arc, which is the Treasure Island arc. And then after that, we have a bit more. So if it goes the same route as season 1, and we're going to get like a 24 episode season, I think the first 12 episodes are going to be Treasure Island. And then after that, we're probably going to get introduced to the New World aspect of the show. And from that point onwards, we've maybe got like 1 or 2 more seasons left. Like, depending on how they adapt this, we could be flying into the finale, especially because we don't have any more manga to go off, and the prime motivator for anime is we're here to sell the manga. We need to sell the manga, sell the merchandise. So I could see this next season flying into approaching the final arc.
Yeah.
Like, if they were, like...
Okay.
So minded. I think we've at least got 2 seasons left.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I think we've covered lots. My final question to you is... First, well, actually... Yeah, my final question to you is, does the manga do a good job of finishing off? Because does it end well?
You don't want to be so committed and then for it to be a crap ending. You don't want.
I'm not saying that.
Through all of this.
I'm not saying that.
For it to not land.
I just wondered whether you enjoyed it, whether you thought it was a satisfying conclusion to the series.
I would say that out of all the shonen manga that I've finished and have ended their runs during the time that I've been like actively reading them, I would say Dr. Stone has one of the most satisfying endings that I have.
So good to hear.
And experienced. And I have issues with it. I still have problems. There are issues with the pacing of the final few arcs and stuff, but I would say everything taken into account, I think that Dr. Stone manages to find that balance and manages to land on its feet. There's a few wobbles, but it nails it. And so that's why I'm so excited to see
how they do
what's coming up after this. Yeah, so I'm excited for New World. I'm excited for what comes next.
Cool. And final question is, what's your favourite invention?
Ooh, ramen.
Of course 100%.
It is. Just them inventing ramen and then just everyone being like... Because I just love the fact that they just normalise that food science is science, and the fact that they're just like, hey, look, if we make things that are tasty, people will want to work for us. Yeah. Let's do that. Like, trading your skills. If I'm a good chef, I can trade my skills as being a chef to have somebody build a house for me. Like, I love that idea. And even though it's not true ramen, because they use foxtail, wheatgrass, or whatever, it's the perfect personification of Dr. Stone, of, like, science is a force for good, and it is a force for things that people enjoy. How about you? What's your favourite invention?
Probably carbon fiber's pretty dope. I like
that was pretty impressive.
But also sulfuric acid. That whole arc of getting this sulfuric acid, I thought was amazing. I thought it was so visually.
We didn't even talk about the personification of like concepts, like in the Ryusei special. As is the whole thing with the dragon that is like a weather formation as a dragon. It was just it's so sick.
It's really good.
Go watch Dr. Stone.
And I think that's how we
go watch it. Go now.
Go watch Dr. Stone and then come back here and let us know what you think, because it's pretty dope as far as we're concerned, and we're all very excited for the new series. So we'll leave it there. Thank you, Sam. Thank you everyone who's watched, and we'll see you later.
Goodbye.